Hey, folks, today is September 18th, 2018, and this edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered, a packed show for you. We have updates on the Overton Shawn case out of Dallas, of course, where they're still investigating that particular case where Amber Geiger, a Dallas police officer, shot and killed him in his own apartment. Also, we'll have an update on the Laquan McDonald trial happening in Chicago. Plus, a white politician, no, seriously, and a white pastor in Texas speaking out on cops killing our young men. Really? Also, a black cop in New York totally cussed out by a white man. She wasn't even fazed. And guess what? He's still living. See what happens if you're a white cop? You don't have to kill people for cussing you out. Judge Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination headed to the same land of Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill territory. They're going to be testifying together on Monday, live on television. We'll talk about that with Barbara Armand of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Also, our Stuck on Stupid Person of the Week, a racist superintendent in Texas who says that, damn it, you can't trust a black NFL quarterback. Like you can play some ball. Also, Pastor Jamal Bryant is down with Nike and Colin Kaepernick, but he doesn't want black folks buying the gear. He says we should be buying stock, something I've advocated for years. We'll also talk with Eric Dickerson, who is demanding, along with other Hall of Fame players, that the NFL provide them insurance as well as a stipend. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, updates on two trials, first of all, cases we're covering. First off, in Chicago, where Jason Van Dyke, Chicago police officer, he is on trial for the shooting death of Laquan McDonald. And so prosecutors have been, of course, leading that particular case as we speak. And, of course, they say publicly that race played a factor in the shooting. Of course, they noted that Van Dyke knew nothing about McDonald, other than that he was black. Now, Special Prosecutor Joseph McMahon told the jury, quote, what he did know, what he did see was a black boy walking down the street having the audacity to ignore the police. Now, police officers involved have maintained that McDonald had a knife, but a civilian witness told the jury today he never saw any knife. In addition, you remember, it was Van Dyke and other officers who said that Laquan McDonald was charging at them, yet when the dash cam video footage was finally released, we saw for ourselves that that was not the case. He was not charging them, actually was running away from Van Dyke. We also know that he emptied 16 rounds into McDonald and tried to reload, but it was his partner who stopped him, saying, we got this. And so, of course, that trial is taking place in Chicago as we speak, and so every day we certainly will offer you an update on what's happening there. Now let's go to Dallas, where we have now reached a point where people are protesting the police killing of Overton Shawn. Of course, he was shot and killed in his own apartment. Now, what's unbelievable here is that, again, you have many folks who are out there, a lot of African Americans, of course, who are protesting, wanting justice in this particular case, but also you have white clergy, as well as Beto ORourke, who is running for the United States Senate from Texas, who are also speaking out on the killing of Shawn.
In this day and age, in this very year, in this community, that a young man, African American, in his own apartment, is shot and killed by a police officer. And when we all want justice and the facts and the information to make an informed decision, what is released to the public? That he had a small amount of marijuana in his kitchen. How can that be just in this country? How can we continue to lose the lives of United States of America at the hands of white police officers. That is not justice. That is not us. That can and that must change. Are you with me on this?
All right, folks, and of course, Beto ORourke is facing incumbent Senator Ted Cruz. Latest Quinnipiac poll shows ORourke down 9 points, although another poll showed them in a dead heat. And of course, among African Americans, 97% of black voters in Texas are supporting Beto ORourke compared to 3% of African Americans supporting Ted Cruz. Now let's go to, of course, also now, you know, of course, there are some white pastors who've been out there in front speaking out on behalf of both of them, Jean, the case as well. And so here's Pastor George Mason of the Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas on Sunday for speaking on this very issue.
Nonetheless, the preferential treatment of the officer by the criminal justice system reminds us that justice in this city, in this country, is still not colorblind. Whether you are white or black or brown or blue. And then the smear campaign of the dead man's character started immediately after his funeral, which is a long and nasty practice used against people of color to gain sympathy for the defendant. Lord, have mercy. I sat for 3 hours Thursday in Botham's funeral service, thinking how touched I was by the faith of this man and of his family and of his church community, and also thinking, I don't want to have to attend one more of these funerals ever again in my entire life.
So Shawn King, of course, had that video on his Twitter account, so we appreciate that. And so glad to see, again, these pastors speaking out. Not all cops act a fool when it comes to being confronted by citizens. Here's a video that's gone viral of a black cop in New York who pretty much just ignored this dude who was yelling and screaming, calling her the N-word. Press play. And y'all see that sister is completely unbothered. She's standing there ignoring the dude because she's saying, you know, you about to go to jail. And see, again, that's the case. But trust me, when you see other video, if that was a black guy cussed out a white cop, I don't think we'll be seeing that sort of same reaction. And so all she did, she was focused on chewing her gum while he was sitting there sounding like a damn fool. And so that's what happens in those cases. And so there is a way to handle folks when it comes to how they talk to you. Hopefully some other white cops will learn exactly what that means. Now on to another big story today, folks. Brett Kavanaugh is facing lots of heat when it comes to a woman who says that he sexually assaulted her when they were in high school. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, because she's accusing him of sexual assault. And both of them are set to testify on Monday before the Senate Judiciary Committee. It will be carried live. The Democratic leaders are requesting more time for the FBI to investigate the allegations, but Republicans want this over as quick as possible because they desperately want to confirm him for the U.S. Supreme Court so he can be able to begin to hear cases in October. They also, of course, want him on the court as fast as possible because they want this done just in case they lose control of the U.S. Senate in November. And so the question is, what can we expect to take place? Joining us right now is Barbara Arnwine. She's the Executive Director of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So what's interesting here is that she sends this letter this summer to Senator Dianne Feinstein. They held on to it, and then they revealed it after the confirmation hearing. One, do you believe that was wise? Because now they're being criticized as saying, well, you're throwing a Hail Mary, trying to keep him off the court. If you have this letter, why not release it earlier?
Well, I think there were so many issues they had to deal with at first, like all these documents that are still missing. And I don't blame them for wanting to focus first on the process, the procedures, all the things that were wrong about ramming this nomination through. So I kind of get it. Also, I understand how perilous it is for women to come forward and to be heard in these circumstances, and I can see why people wouldn't want to use that unless they had to.
Well, she remained anonymous, but it wasn't until she went to the Washington Post to then reveal her identity.
After it broke that Senator Feinstein had already released a letter, had made it public that there was a letter. But I do think it's critical to the future of this country that she is heard. I mean, we blew it years ago when the Anita Hill hearings were held. It's time, as Maxie Hirano said today, thank you, Senator Hirano, she said it's time men to shut up and step up and give this woman her time. I really believe that this situation is serious. I think that we're going to find that this is not a made-up charge. She's not, quote, hysterical and forgetting who raped her, tried to rape her. Women remember these things. Never forget. So I think it's going to be, quite the hearing on Monday.
Now, both of them will be testifying.
Yes.
And they're not allowing any other witnesses, anybody else to corroborate
Big mistake.
This.
They did the same mistake with Anita Hill. Remember, there was a witness who wanted to testify about Clarence Thomas's behavior. They would not allow her to testify. That was a big mistake, and Joe Biden has even apologized for his role in squashing that witness. So I think that's a mistake. I think Mark Judd, who was there, tried to participate in this rape, that he ought to be subpoenaed. I think the FBI should investigate thoroughly before there is the hearing on Monday. I think that if they have the hearing on Monday, they're going to have another one after the FBI does a thorough investigation. These are really serious charges.
And what do you say to the folks who say that, look, this was high school. You have this organization that's also supporting this nomination. A spokeswoman was on television earlier today saying this could have simply been horseplay.
Listen, horseplay, rape is never horseplay. People come up with every excuse they can. Well,
in this case, she's alleging it was attempted rape.
It was attempted rape. But he was doing everything he could to rape her. It was only because he was so drunk and his friend Mark Judd was just as drunk that they couldn't pull it off. But they were serious. I mean, remember, they take her into a room, shut the door, put his hands over her mouth, turn the music up so that she cannot be heard. This was not some little horseplay.
But this is the issue that we're dealing with. The issue we're dealing with is there are notes from a therapist where there was no mention of this in those particular notes. It comes down to what evidence do you have?
Well, actually,
what can you actually prove? I mean, you're going to have two people testifying. Mm-hmm. Her account, his account. What do you have to prove that it actually happened or didn't happen? And what are we now left with? Two folks testifying?
Well, we have two things. When she was in the couples therapy in 2012, she talked about this. It came up then. She had no reason in 2012 to talk about this. She also has, told her family, told her husband. So it's not as if this was something that all of a sudden she just had some kind of recovered recollection at the last second. This woman has been trying to deal with the injury, the harm, and the damage done to her by his actions. I think that no matter what people think, if you think you can somehow squash this the way women think now, after Me Too, after this president and 19 allegations against him and nothing's been done about it, I think that it's a political calculation of suicide for the GOP to believe that they can somehow just say, oh, it's about a youthful indiscretion. Women don't want to hear that.
Well, one of the issues you have 13 Republicans. You don't have any women on that committee.
Right.
So the question then becomes, will Susan Collins, will Lisa Murkowski, will Marsha Blackburn, will any other of these folks who are senators, will they actually believe her over him and vote against him?
Will they stand up finally for women? I mean, you cannot keep saying I am for women and vote against everything that would help women. They need to really show us who they are, because women are getting to the point now where we just won't vote for someone just because she's a woman. We want her politics to reflect those that are in the best interest of all women. All
right, then. Barbara Armand, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to get a couple of thoughts on this from our panelists, as well as we'll talk about this superintendent out of Texas who, what the hell is he thinking, posting on Facebook that you can't trust black quarterbacks? Now he's apologizing, but I don't give a damn. He's still our stuck-on stupid person of the week. We're back at Roland Martin Unfiltered in a moment.
When rungs were missing, I learned to jump. Singer William Warfield.
Let's go. All right, folks. Again, we have, of course, the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearing that's still going on. We thought this thing was over. We thought it was over. But the reality is it is not. On Monday, as I said, you're going to have his accuser, Dr. Ford, as well as Brett Kavanaugh, testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee. All eyes will be on them in many ways to just remind us, of course, of the contentious hearings dealing with Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas. And it causes folks to have to ask the question, had Anita Hill hearings been done differently, had you had women involved, would that have made a difference? And so we're seeing that again, where Republicans are now having to contend with that. Many of their supporters who are saying this is a waste of time. It shouldn't even be brought up, whereas you have Democrats who are saying, no, it should be a part of the conversation. And so right now I want to bring up our panel to talk about this here, to get their thoughts and perspective on this and a whole bunch of other issues that we have. First, on the far right of mine, we have Deborah Simmons. She is senior correspondent for the Washington Times. We also have, of course, on our panel, Spencer Overton, president for the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, and Tiffany Lofton. She, of course, she is the head of the College and Youth Division of the NAACP. Deborah, I'll start with you. Should she testify? Woman accusing Brett Kavanaugh.
If the committee wants her to testify, she should testify, as should Judge Kavanaugh. The thing is, the last thing I saw before I left the newsroom is that she has not agreed to testify yet. Which is interesting at a last moment notice like this. But look, the other thing is that it doesn't matter how many women are on the Senate panel, how many women are not, whether this was, what age they were, anything like that. Sexual assaults and rape are always serious. And I hardly want to throw salt into the wounds of any person who's ever been sexually assaulted or raped. But if you look at the timeline of events, it does raise a lot of questions.
When you say the timeline, what do you mean?
The timeline of when it reportedly happened. Right. When she reportedly first came first to even let her husband know it had happened, and her therapist, the couples therapist, family therapist, or what you have, and the rest of her family, when she first handed this information over to somebody who then handed it over to Senator Feinstein. Okay, I'm going to take this out for a second.
Go ahead, no problem.
And then Senator Feinstein decided to hand the information over to federal authorities. That's the timeline we're dealing with here. And it doesn't matter what the offense is supposed to be, but when you're prosecuting a crime, you have to have evidence and not just he said, she said.
But this isn't.
Is the question boxers or briefs? I mean,
yeah, but this isn't a crime. The standard is not beyond a reasonable doubt. The question is, should this person be on the highest court in the land? In terms of the timeline, I don't see anything wrong.
But you can't answer that question with a no unless you have evidence as to why he or she shouldn't be on the bench.
She is a witness. That is evidence, and it is incumbent upon him to respond
just saying
to that
something
evidence.
is evidence. To say I'm not going to employ this person.
You know, we do not need DNA.
I just wanted to get that clear.
We don't need text. We don't need video to lock brothers up for years. We've got to have those things to come here to say that this person should not be on the U.S. Supreme Court.
But not just somebody who said they did something.
Well, we've got her note from 2012. This is before Kavanaugh is even named. She brought this forward before he was even
if the bar is lower than what a criminal court would look at, that's my point.
This isn't a criminal court.
That's my point. So why
it's a much lower. It's
and
a
of
much
course,
lower
I think
bar.
she should testify.
This is the interesting part. I agree. She should testify. I do hope, to answer your question, that she actually does come and testify on Monday. I think it's super important, not only because of Judge Kavanaugh, but also because when we talk about the Me Too movement, when we talk about survivors and victims of sexual assault, it is important that in the culture of America today, we are no longer afraid of being able to put on blast and share the traumatizing stories that have happened in our communities, and to women and to men and to LGBTQ folks identified alike. So yes, she should absolutely testify on Monday. In terms of the actual case, and it was interesting watching this conversation, I disagree. Looking at a room full of white men who are going to make the decision for Anita Hill, who made the decision for Anita Hill, and now looking at a group of men who are going to also make that decision, they have already put in doubt her story and her testimony. So I think that it is important that we have diversity in these spaces moving forward, especially with elections, because this is not a judge, this is not a Supreme Court case, this is not a criminal case that's being taken place. This is a committee meeting to appoint a federal judge. So it's actually really important that we do have diversity of folks that are on that committee, because then they can also have different perspectives on how they're going to view it. They have already put in doubt and in jeopardy. And it's interesting to watch the conversation between our communities have this debate. Well, it's too late that she put her letter out, or it's perfect timing because they're about to appoint Judge Kavanaugh, or is her story true because she doesn't have evidence? And I think that none of that actually matters at this moment, that if somebody comes out because they have an actual story that they need to tell about a traumatizing sexual assault or possible rape case that happened to them, then we should be able to take that seriously when it happens. Now, if it's false and it doesn't, you know what I'm saying, and it was a lie or whatever it was, because that's possible, then we'll deal with that in the case.
Well, here's
but
the
it's
question,
a hearing right now, not a case.
The question, though, is how do we even establish that it's false? How do we establish that it's true?
At this moment, we can't. All we can do is wait for her to come and testify on Monday and hope that when she testifies, she shares the story that she actually has, and then the committee is allowed to make the decision on Judge Kavanaugh.
So
with
what
her story.
so Spencer, Deborah, what we're left with, it really comes down to who sounds more credible when they testify. Because if you don't have anything, like, it's different if this was a situation where after it happened, she immediately told a friend.
Right.
You don't have that.
Right.
It's different if it happened and I immediately called the police, or it happened at a school. I immediately told a teacher. I told someone at this happened. That's way different.
Yep.
So,
but she did tell her therapist in 2012 about this incident, so it wasn't like she just came up with this. That's number one. And number two, this notion that people suppress some of the worst thing that's ever happened to them, or one of the worst things that has ever happened to them, that is no surprise. People are embarrassed of things even though they had nothing to do with it, even though they're not at fault at all.
So if you're a United States Senator, again, you're left with, Deborah, again, who do I believe? And so at the end of the day, when Monday comes, and if she does agree to testify, what you're going to be left with is, I'm going to listen to her, I'm going to listen to him, and now I got to decide who do I think, frankly, is more credible.
He said, she said, from the title of a TV show a long, long time ago, look, you don't, just telling your story is not substantive enough. You have to tell facts. And he has to be given, he being Judge Kavanaugh, the opportunity to dispute this fact. If somebody's sitting up there telling a whole bunch of lies about you, how can you? Wait a minute.
It's a lie.
Because I'm just saying. We have to assume everything, because nobody's testified yet before Congress.
Right.
But if somebody's telling a bunch of lies, how do you negate that? Other than to keep saying that's not true. I didn't do that. That's not true. I didn't do that.
So let's also just think about this from a motives standpoint, right, Roland? We're not talking about a Stormy Daniels who might benefit from media attention by going. We're talking about a PhD professor whose, frankly, credibility is undermined by a variety of people questioning her veracity. She has nothing to benefit here from coming forward, and that's something, and again, I don't want to get into politics of respectability and the stature of different folks and all that other kind of stuff, but I'm just saying that This woman has nothing to benefit from coming forward, nothing personally to benefit.
She could write a book.
The last thing that I'll say is, and a lot of people have written books, the last thing that I'll say is...
professors have to keep to their tenure. That's how they get tenures.
They don't write books on being assaulted.
Let me say something. For the last 6 years, I was a teacher union organizer, so I know a lot about the education field.
I know who you are.
So what happens is, I think that despite whether or not her story is true, false, she testifies on Monday or not, Judge Kavanagh is still unqualified in my opinion. So for us to have that conversation,
but nothing to do with this situation.
Either or, whether it is the situation or not, I think that Judge Kavanagh should still not be appointed to the federal Supreme Court. Period. So yes, this story may or may not be true, but he's still unqualified to be the Supreme Court justice.
All right. Well, we'll certainly see what's going to happen on Monday. So we'll be following this over the next few days. All right, folks. We have a great feature here. We call this our Stuck on Stupid Person of the Week. Get ready to play the. We also got a little cute little stinger we have for this because you know that really got some really dumb people.
Can't wait.
You ready to play it?
Yeah.
Stupid!
So, there's a guy named Lynn Redden. He is the superintendent of the Onalaska School District in Texas. It is about 100 miles from Houston. He was watching the Houston Texans play Tennessee Titans on Sunday, and at the end of the game, Deshaun Watson, quarterback for the Texans, made a boneheaded play, throwing a late-game interception. He could have easily ran for 20-odd yards and attempted a game-tying field goal, but instead he threw an INT. Well, Lynn was on the Houston Chronicle Facebook page, and there was a guy who actually made a particular comment on the Facebook page about that particular play, and Lynn decided to actually comment by saying that, you know, you can't trust black quarterbacks. Now, he thought it was a private comment. He didn't realize he was on the public Facebook page of the largest newspaper in the Southwest United States. After he got busted and took screenshots, of course, he apologized profusely. And then in an interview with the Houston Chronicle, he tried to even suggest that there are stats to back up his theory that blacks have not been successful in the NFL. Now, of course, you've had Doug Williams, who was Super Bowl MVP, leading Washington to a Super Bowl. Of course, Russell Wilson was quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks and led them to one Super Bowl, and of course, they barely lost a second Super Bowl. I do recall there was a guy named Steve McNair, of course, who lost on a last second. His guy was stopped on the 1-yard line against the Rams. I can go on and on. Colin Kaepernick. He, of course, led his team to the Super Bowl. We can go on and on and on. So this idea that somehow you can't trust black quarterbacks, kind of insane, because I do recall Donovan McNabb led his team to the Super Bowl, and they actually lost in the Super Bowl. I do recall any number of other players. I could talk about Randall Cunningham. We can talk about Michael Vick.
Come on.
I mean, we can go on and on. And so poor little Lynn. Now, I called the school district today. Lynn didn't show up.
Oh.
It's no shock he didn't come to work today.
Tim took a sick day.
But the real deal is, to our panel here, the real deal here is he's mad because he got busted.
Right.
So to say, oh, my God, I should have never posted this. What was I thinking? You were thinking what the hell you typed.
Right.
This is what you believe, and I'm sorry. This is a person who should lose his job because he has no business being over our children, because if that is your view, it can come through what you do every day. Spencer,
and there needs to just be some remorse. Hey, I'm sorry. Not defense of, well, you know, if you look at the numbers, this is what bears out, so this isn't racist. Well, actually, the definition of racism is that you say the reason this person missed is because they're black.
And he didn't even apologize because he said, I'm sorry, it was posted. It was not that I said it. Not that I said it. And I'm apologizing.
That's how I was thinking.
I'm sorry I got caught.
So it's interesting because in the article that I read, he said that he meant it to be like a Facebook, like personal message, like direct message, and then he realized it was a post. And I haven't been on Facebook in a while. Mine's actually deactivated. But what I know for sure is the difference between posting to your actual wall and sending a direct message to a friend. His quote was, when you need precision decision-making, you can't count on a black quarterback. And I said,
Now,
you're prejudiced.
Now, you break that. Now, you break that.
Said sorry. That was it.
Now, you break that down. And see, again, look, the reason I appreciate technology is because it is exposing
The real
bigots for who they are.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All the videos we're
Uncovering
capturing
everybody.
people, all the folks who are making comments, that's what it's doing.
Right.
And so, dude, you simply reveal who you actually are, which means that you could take that same thought process when it comes to you hiring folks for the school district.
Right.
You will have the exact same view when it comes to principals and when it comes to teachers. And that's exactly
Athletic
what...
director.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, but across the board. The bottom line is, this is him showing exactly who he is.
Yeah.
Right. He's uncovered. Look, here's the other thing. When I saw the first name Lynn, I was like, ooh, L-Y-N, Lynn with 2 N's? Is he mad at, his mom and daddy for giving him a name that usually belongs to a girl? Who exactly is he angry at? Is it his fault that the Texans aren't doing? Whose fault is it that the Texans aren't doing?
We really want to be honest. Bill O'Brien sucks as a head coach. Me, of course, being a native of Houston, he had no business
he
had no business getting a contract extension last year. He's absolutely awful because he has no late game management whatsoever. He also was idiotic by not playing Deshaun Watson in the preseason, coming off an ACL injury when you might have had him get some reps in the preseason. That's a whole.
So the coach thinks no better than the quarterback.
No. The bottom line is the coach is idiotic. But here's the piece: white boys throw interceptions. Nathan Peterman last year threw 5 interceptions in the first half alone.
That's sad.
But the fact that this superintendent, and again, what I need people to understand, these are the judgments that some people make against black people every single day.
Not just in sports.
In the workplace, in many areas. And so one guy throws an interception, and now that's, can't trust these black quarterbacks. And history is also there because, and the reason that's important is because for decades, even though you're celebrating, this is the 98th year of the NFL, what you're dealing with is you've had coaches who for years would not play black quarterbacks because they said they didn't have the intelligence, they couldn't read the defenses. They came up with all these excuses. What this guy's doing is simply exhibiting what NFL owners and coaches thought for decades.
Right, and it's not just football, right? This guy is the superintendent of a school system. It invades and pervades our school systems when we talk about kids not taking a risk or not going out there because the assumption is they're going to fail. They're black and they're going to fail.
Right. They're no good.
There are
Yep.
There are implications beyond this context.
Right. And that's why I think, again, that whole thing is important. Now, let's go to another sports story where the WNBA Seattle Storm, they won another WNBA title, and they made it perfectly clear, we ain't trying to go see Donald Trump. Of course, we know many other professional teams have made it clear they don't want to visit the White House. Of course, the Golden State Warriors made that perfectly clear. Then Trump disinvited them, which is kind of crazy because you can't disinvite somebody who already said, I ain't coming. And then, of course, we saw where the Houston Astros, where most of their whole team went to go see Donald Trump. I don't know why in the hell they went. Maybe because our colors are blue and orange and he's orange. That could be it. And then, of course, you also have some NFL players with the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles, as a team, did not go. And when only a handful of players were going to show up, Trump rescinded their invitation. Bottom line, they don't nobody want to see with him. And so the Seattle Storm have made it perfectly clear they have no interest in going. Folks, it's clear. It's supposed to be seen as a reward. In fact, the South Carolina women's basketball team who won the national championship made it clear we ain't trying to go either.
That's not a reward.
Well, no. Over the years, years, it was considered a reward to go to the White House. But bottom line is, don't nobody want to be seen with this dude, Deborah.
That's not a
Do you think he really cares? The man is not into sports anyway.
Oh, no, he does care. His ego. His ego.
No. As long as he keeps those cell phones and he can tweet when he wakes up in the middle of the night because his warm milk didn't kick in, he doesn't really
No. When the Boston Bruins went for winning the NHL championship, he made a big deal out of it. And in fact,
I'm not saying he won't make a big deal if somebody.
It does matter because he hates rejection. He hates rejection. His ego hates rejection.
He's the type of man similar to like we had as a mayor in this city. They're not into team sports.
Oh, no. His ego. Deborah,
I'm not saying
his
he doesn't have an ego.
He does hate being rejected. Oh, by the way,
and
the Seattle Storm did previously win a WNBA title. And, of course, they had no problem going to the White House to be with President Barack Obama. I think we have video or a photo of it. What you got? Right, so that's them having some good time. Donald will never get to see that photo right there. But again, go ahead.
The sad thing is this, is that yes, he hates rejection, and when they don't show up, somehow on Twitter, he makes it their fault. Like, it's like, actually, I didn't want you to come anyway, and that's how you know it hurts his ego in the first place. Even when I saw the Warriors do it, and he came at Steven and everybody else, and he was like, oh, I actually didn't want you all to show up anyway, it's a rejection for him. So what I can't wait to see is the chart of presidents, who got invited when they won their championship, and who decided that they weren't going to come, and which president had the most favorable response to those invitations.
Well, it won't be in print because that costs too much money. It'll be online somewhere.
Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it.
All right, folks. Of course, we're going to go to a break right now with our HBCU Giving Day. So pull that up, please. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about Nike, Colin Kaepernick. A couple of stories pretty interesting there. And so here we go. We'll be back in a moment. All right, folks, this New Orleans, Dyke University is our HBCU Giving Day School of the Day. Of course, their website, www.dillard.edu. Alpha Band there is their president, Dr. Kimbrough. So we'll certainly appreciate that. If you want to support Dyke University, please give to them at dillard.edu. Speaking of giving, lots of love and giving last night on the Emmys red carpet, where, of course, Nike was front and center thanks to the vivacious one, Jennifer Lewis. Of course, she is from Blackish. She wore Nike to the Emmys last night with a shirt and shoes as well. Y'all got a photo?
It was bedazzled.
All right, well, go pull it up then. I'm talking about it. Let's go. Pull the photo up.
Well, I am
so
wearing Nike tonight to tell them how proud I am of them for supporting Colin Kaepernick and his protests against police brutality and racial injustice. I speak to the millennials tonight to tell them they are not alone in standing up. We're right behind them. Their ancestors are behind them who took 2 knees and 2 hands, picking cotton.
And on Saturday night at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Phoenix Awards, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, of course, had the audience hooting and hollering when they were all being introduced, and this is how he walked out.
Congressional District, serving Congress since 2005.
So he put on, of course, a pair of Nike shoes as well as the backpack as well. Statements being made by our people.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's powerful. Obviously, Nike was intentional because they knew the sales would go up. I'm still upset about the mayor in Kenner, Louisiana, who decided that he wasn't going to buy or ask anybody else in his city to purchase Nike products. I think that's ridiculous and ignorant and stupid. Since this is unfiltered, I can say that. And I want to continue to see folks not only show up with the brand of Nike because it's cool, but also put their shoes, put their backpacks, put their hashtags, and put their post online where their mouth is by being able to donate to organizations that are actually doing this work. And we've seen folks like my brother Van Lathan and Shawn King and Angela Ryan, other folks tell people, yes, we want to support Nike, but it's really important to endorse and support these grassroots organizations that are fighting against racial injustice and police brutality every day. Nike is a great brand, but they ain't doing that work every day.
The bottom line is I think a point you had raised, and that's about buying stock in Nike, because there are 2 brands about Nike. It's the Nike and the swoosh, and there's the Michael Jordan brand, which is a whole totally different thing. And Michael's been making money off of it ever since. And we need to figure out a way how we can make money helping Nike make money, how we can get a share of those dollar bills. That's
one of the things we want to talk about right now, of course,
Yeah.
because that's something that I've talked about
Yes.
for years on Washington Watch and on News One now, even now, even in
the
speeches.
brand of college.
And it was a couple of weeks ago, Pastor Jamal Bryant was discussing this at his church, and he talked about that. We're getting him on the line any moment now, folks. Let me know where he is. And the reason, and John Hope Bryant, of course, with Operation Hope, tells a story as well. That when there was a group of young men who were sort of arguing back and forth about clothing and style, and so John said, "Well, here's what I'm going to do: give each one of you guys $200, and you get to decide how you want to spend it." and a couple of brothers were saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy me these Nikes," and so and they were dissing his other young brother because he was not going to do that. And John tried to step in. The brother said, "No, Mr. Brown, it's cool." He said, "I want them to go buy Nike because I'm gonna take my money and go buy some Nike stock. So as these fools keep buying shoes, my stock is going to appreciate and keep going up as a result." He says, "No, leave them alone. Let them do exactly what they're doing." And that to me, again, changes the conversation. I've said for years that, look, if you want to help your child out, go get you a Nike box, empty it, and then put the stock certificate in that box to get them to understand, because Nike stock initially went down, but other apparel company stock went down, of course, right after they made the announcement of Colin Kaepernick being the face of their Just Do It campaign. But in 2 weeks later, it's actually hit its highest ever, $83.30, which shows you, again, that they understood the call they were making, Spencer, that they were not worried about the initial backlash from right-wing folks and Donald Trump.
Right. It's the right thing to do, but it was also the right thing to do economically. The big thing in terms of our folks is that we definitely, have been consumers, and how can we be both owners and producers? And that's what comes into play when we talk about owning stock and also owning businesses, right?
That's right. And recognizing our own political power and economic power is that the power of the black dollar still matters, and us being able to show that their stocks can go up because we invest in people who support our social justice activists, agendas and movements is really important for us to understand.
And just remember, it was only 20 years ago when our young boys, black boys and men, were being killed in alleyways and on the street because they had on a certain pair of tennis shoes. $200, $150, $200, $250 tennis shoes that they were being slaughtered and killed for on the streets of our cities, largely by other black folks, because they had on a new pair of Nikes.
Let's go to our video right now. It's Pastor Jamal Bryant. Pastor Bryant, how you doing?
Doing well. Good afternoon.
And so a couple of weeks ago, as opposed to folks running out buying Nike gear, you made it clear that your members should be buying Nike stock.
Absolutely. I think that when you put into perspective that black Americans are the nation's #1 consumers, but the least in terms of investors of any ethnicity, we had to change the narrative. So in between all three of our services, we have African-American stockbrokers helping our members to open up portfolios for their children, particularly their sons, to just tell them the amount that you would pay for a pair of Jordans, use that to start an investment portfolio for your children. And it was an overwhelming success.
How was it received? Because obviously that's a whole different thought process. Some people are all about looks, all about clothing, and how other people receive that. That they're not necessarily seeing the value, if you will, of a stock certificate.
Here's what's amazing, Roland, is all summer I've been doing a series called Getting Out of the Red, Ridiculous Economic Decisions, about investing, saving, and entrepreneurship. And the Sunday before Nike made the announcement, I ended the series. So when Nike made the announcement, I said, now we can go from theory into practice. So everything I told you, June, July, and August, let's put it into focus in September. So it was almost serendipitous by God's hand that they were primed for what we were getting ready to do.
Henry, go to my iPad. What you will see here, again, we talked about Nike stock. This is the closing bell today. Nike stock is up 2.4%, up $2, up to $85.26. And as you can see from this particular chart, when they were, this was just this morning, how it's gone up. And they have done quite well over the past couple of weeks since the initial decision to align with Colin Kaepernick. I think they are making some fools of folks like Clay Travis, a right-wing sports journalist, and others who said this was economic suicide for them to align with Colin Kaepernick and to so-called diss first responders and police officers.
I think that this speaks to what the Urban League has been talking about for years, and that is the spending power of African Americans. State of Black America that comes out annually always gives us a riveting insight on what kind of capital we have if we would just focus it and target it. And I think that the next step that I've been teaching here in Baltimore is not just the investment into Nike, but how do we invest into black-owned companies? Now that your eyes are open, now that you know that it's possible, and you're getting money from the investment and that you see that it works, I pray that this will become a trickle down to have an impact of economic revival in our community.
And Jamal, and have you been having conversations with other pastors trying to get them to also have these type of conversations? And again, getting folks to understand, as opposed to buying certain goods, to actually buy the stock of those companies. So when other folks are buying it, they're actually making the money. And this is something you can actually pass on to your children, because you sure as hell can't pass on a beat up pair of Dykes.
Here's what's amazing, Roland, and you'll find this funny. I didn't find preachers wanting to become a part of it until they saw that Nike sent me a shipment of limited edition shoes to thank me for having my congregation to make that investment. And preachers started asking, how did you get those shoes?
So wait a minute, So you have these preachers who, like young folk, more concerned about the limited edition shoes as opposed to the message that you were preaching.
It's a whole nother show, Roland. It's a whole nother show.
And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and, of course, let me go to, I'm going to pull this up right now because you mentioned that. Let's see here. I'm going to find that photo. So here we go to my iPhone, please. Oh, God. And so this is, of course, the photo here that you actually, so it was a limited edition Vogue Jumpman 23 shoes. And
they sent me those, and they sent me the Kaepernicks. You got to see them, Roland. You're going to be hating. I'm going to get you a pair.
Okay, why don't you do that? Since I've been touting, telling black folks to buy Nike stock for at least 10 years now. And so tell Nike to send me some damn stock. I don't want a pair of shoes. Tell Nike to send me.
Tell them to send you the stock and send the preachers the shoes.
The preachers, that's fine. They can wear the shoes, but I'll go here and I'll keep the stock. That's what I'll do. All right, Jamal Bryant, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot
for having me.
All right, then. And again, it's one of those things that, we always talk about that with Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, on this issue, again, trying to get folks to understand how do we look at these issues in a different way. And it is amazing to me when you have these conversations because it's like earlier today I had a speech to Home Free USA, which focuses on trying to get folks straight with their credit when it comes to housing, things along those lines. And when we have these discussions and trying to get our folks to think differently, and that's really what this is about. How can you get people to think differently about their economic purchases, about how they actually utilize their money, and also not getting caught up in giving a damn what somebody else thinks.
The status thing.
Because I don't. I mean, I don't care what none of y'all think. I don't really care. No, I don't. I've never cared. I don't care what anybody think about the car I drive, what I wear. In fact, I remember when I was in Chicago, there was a couple of guys worked at CNN that came to WVON radio to set up my studio. And they were trying to get a car to the airport, but it was late. I said, look, I'll take y'all. We go outside, and one of the guys said, he's like, oh, no, I thought you would have had a BMW or a Mercedes. And I was like, why? I told you the Corolla. I said, well, first of all, just get 32 miles to the gallon. Right. I said, and it's going to get you from here to the airport.
To the airport.
Safely.
And I told him, I said, dude, I will roll up on at a 5-star hotel for a black tie event. And I said, I don't give a damn what nobody think. Right. I said, I don't care what y'all think.
And what is appreciating, right? That car is not appreciating at all. It's going down.
Right, but I don't appreciate what they think.
Right.
I mean, I really don't give a damn what somebody else thinks.
Yeah, but that comes with maturity.
No, it don't.
Yes, it does.
No, it don't.
When you are younger, yes, it does.
Tiffany,
when you are a kid, when you are younger.
This is where you're wrong, Tiffany.
Go ahead, tell me.
I didn't give a damn when I was 12.
Okay.
My parents, no, follow me here. My parents, my brother and I, our birthdays are 1 year, 1 day apart. He's November 13th, I'm November 14th. My parents bought us some gifts. And this was when, Jordache jeans, all of jeans, all the rage. Right. It was a single pair of Jordache jeans and 2 polos and a belt. Gave us the gifts, appreciated. About 5 minutes later, I went in their bedroom and said, look, I appreciate the gift, but y'all take these jeans back and y'all give me 3 Levi's. Take these 2 polos back. Y'all give me 5 regular shirts. I'm good.
That's
I didn't care about the latest tennis shoe. I didn't care. And I would tell classmates, I don't give a damn what y'all think. So And my deal is, that's how I viewed it when I was 12, 13, 14, 15. I didn't care about what other young folks thought.
I'm not saying that that's wrong, Roland. What I am saying is acknowledging that there are still young folks, that there are still people, not even just young people. There might be older folks, too, who still care about what people think about them. And their level of self-confidence or their level of worth comes along with what they can buy in material.
But which is why
capitalistic society.
No.
When I was a kid and I was in middle school, my first pair of name brand shoes, my mama bought me Payless my whole life.
Right.
I said, Mom, people are beating me up, people are making fun of me at school. I have to have a pair of name brand shoes. My mama said, you ain't getting a pair of name brand shoes. My friend to this day, Deborah, sent me her old Nikes that were dirty white with a black swoosh on it and said, go ahead, you can have these. My second pair of name brand shoes came from my friend Aziza Malloy, who gave me her pink Timberlands that were super old. So for some people, all I'm acknowledging is not everybody thinks.
No, I understand. And what I'm trying to do is to get us to think that way.
And we should.
Because when we fall into that trap of giving a damn what somebody else thinks, who ain't paying your bills, not paying your car, I'm like, and I don't really care. Because first of all, most of us are living for folk who don't like us anyway, and we're trying to impress folk who don't like us. I don't care about them damn people.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think more people should think that way. I was just acknowledging that right now there's some people who have nothing else to worry about except for what people think about them.
Well, you can because guess what? When your life get messed up, they ain't going to be there to feed you, to clothe you, to take care of you, to pass you a test. And I just think we have to learn to begin to teach folks to think a different way.
Absolutely.
Because as Chuck D said, the only piece of real estate that ain't been sold left is what's between your ears. And if they can buy that, that's where they got you. And I think too many of us are walking around really caring what somebody else thinks about what we wear and how we look.
Yeah, I think you're right, but you got to admit that you're somebody who stands up to power, and you're somebody who speaks out.
No, I was 12.
A unique person. You were unique back then.
But literally, again, at that age, I didn't care.
Let me ask you this. What made you not care?
Because I ain't give a damn what somebody else thought.
How did you think that way?
Because I knew growing up another kid, you can talk about me all you want to. Knock yourself out. Look, I got people right now who come on my Instagram page, say, man, you just need to cut your hair. I'm like, I don't give a damn about my damn hair. No, but follow me here. They're walking around worried about stuff because it's what somebody else is thinking.
Right.
And what we have to do is we have to reprogram people. We got to reprogram black people to stop worrying about, well, what is she saying? What is she saying?
Right.
If you I was in middle school. Dude had an Izod shirt on. And I went, you know that's not a real Izod. I know what you did.
Right.
Your ass went and bought the little alligator and you sold it on.
At the
shirt from Kmart.
Right.
Because the Izod is crooked as hell.
Right.
I said, I need you to explain to me. Why in the hell you going to spend $35 on a damn shirt? When you take the little alligator off, that damn shirt is $9.99 at Kmart.
Or you ask them to spell
I was in middle school.
And they don't know how.
I was in middle school. It wasn't hard for me. I was like, that's a $9.99 shirt.
Right.
Because that little bitty ugly ass alligator is $35.
Nobody is negating that people need to change their mindset and that people need to reprioritize how they think about materialistic stuff in this society. And we need to continue to do that.
Like, I can't deal with the people who got a $45,000 car and they got an apartment.
Right. Hey.
I'm just saying, I can't deal with somebody walking around with some Louboutins, but they ass renting. I can't deal with that.
This is true. People like that all over the world.
Hold on now.
That's all they can get.
Just a second. We agree with you.
Yeah, we agree.
There's also there's a reason our folks have pit bulls or there's certain things we're compensating for with this stuff, right? And so I agree with you in terms of facts and where we need to go. Right, but it's also a reality here. We got to address it.
No. I don't want to address the reality.
Right.
I want to change the reality.
True. Yep.
I want us to literally begin to redefine what matters, and that ain't got nothing to do with because now there's somebody out there. Let me go ahead and break this down. There's somebody sitting there right now, and they like, oh yeah, but see, you probably came from this environment. Hell no. Mama didn't go to college. Daddy didn't go to college. Mom and Daddy never combined made more than $50,000 a year and had 5 kids. I could stand on my damn porch in Clinton Park and look to my right and see the DEA and the FBI and the Houston Police Department taking down crack houses. So if y'all try that little bullshit y'all want to, somehow thinking that, oh, you come from a different background, no. But the difference was I had parents and grandparents who established worth that was internal, it wasn't external.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is we have to have more of that where we are not so caught up in trying to keep up with the Joneses when we out of breath trying to keep up with them, Deborah.
Or assuming it's going to happen in public schools. It ain't going to happen there either. You have to do it. You have to start in the home the way my parents would line us up, tell us we're going to the store. Roland's getting a coat. Tiffany's getting a pair of shoes. We can't deal with Spencer right now, and don't you ask for nothing. That's the way it went.
Spencer left out.
Yeah, right. And I get left out because they're not dealing with me. So, but that's the way it is. There were parameters and priorities.
And again, I get nice stuff, but look, I remember we going shopping. Dad was like, you know you ain't getting that.
Right.
Like,
Listen,
I don't know why in the hell you even picked it up.
Yeah.
Or I told my daughters, pay less sales brand names. They just ain't the brand names you find in Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom and everywhere
so
else.
I'm going to close this out. Y'all go trip out. So y'all remember Cherie used to work on News One Now? Okay. So Cherie was all about Nikes. She was like the queen of brands. So I'm sitting in the office one day. I got on this pair of white starter tennis shoes. So here's what happened. I went to the Houston, Texas, Baltimore Ravens game. I'm driving in sandals. We get to the stadium. Damn, I ain't got my white tennis shoes. So I'm like, well, I ain't driving back to Virginia because that's about an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm like, it's 10:30 on a Sunday morning. What's open? Walmart. So you 24-hour Walmart.
It's open, right.
It's open. Right. So I walk in now. I got one mission: a pair of white tennis shoes. I don't give a damn. New Balance, whatever the hell. I'm looking for white. I'm looking for cheap. $24.99 made the cut. So buy them. So I'm in there. She's like, I can't believe you got these starters on. I'm like, guess what? They were white and they comfortable. And I don't give a damn what you think. Now, she had this collection of Nikes in her apartment.
She was a purist, huh?
She had this collection, okay?
She watching this right now.
Like a bunch of Nike collection. They broke into her apartment, stole her laptop, all her stuff, and her Nike collection. The girl was heartbroken. And I said, now see, had your ass had some Nike stock, they could have stole a certificate, but you still had it. And I said, and I get people who collect the whole Nike shoes. I said, but the reality is, you see this whole thing is just, no, it's about Nike. I said, baby, it could be Nike, Adidas, New Balance, Under Armour, Reebok. I don't really care. Guess what? They were white. That's all that mattered. And they went to outfit. And I just say, and I really don't care what you think. And I had my feet propped up, and I'm like, and I ain't embarrassed. You just walk your ass right on by because I don't care. Because I just really don't. I can't live for other people and how they view the world as that somehow that's going to determine what my life is going to be about.
Right. Well, that's a telling story because then the criminals decided to go into her house and steal all Nikes anyway, and that tells you that people
and it happened twice.
And people still care about going into other people's houses and stealing Nikes.
Right. So
Nikes is it's all brand name, it's all materialistic, it's all capitalism, it's all everything.
And knock yourself out. But the bottom line is, I got plus the other deal is like I never. Hey, you got to be ignorant as hell anyway to pay all that damn money for a pair of tennis shoes.
For a pair of tennis shoes.
Do you think, Spencer, what's the most you'll pay for a pair of tennis shoes?
Don't ask me that question.
$70.
That's what I'm right. I ain't never. Now, hell, I done paid for $200 for a pair of golf shoes. Right. But that's different because they got spikes.
Performance.
And it's performance. But I just ain't doing it. But again, it's just one of those things that I think for us, is how we redefine what's important. And so we're going to work on Tiffany because, you know, she Miss Brand herself.
What are you talking? Nothing I have on right now is Brand.
First of all, you just name Brand anyway. That's just, you know, that's just your whole countenance.
Oh, my God. Nothing I have on right now is, Michael, this is Fossil.
Okay. We running down brand.
Aldo.
They ain't paying us, so he can get no shout outs.
I know
ain't no free shout outs.
They can send me a box like they did Jamal Bryant.
yeah, there you go. Because if I was Jamal, I had them bad boys on eBay. All right, y'all. We appreciate everybody for watching. Don't forget, folks, you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club. You know what? We got some charter members. Let me read those. Pass the list to me, please. So here are the folks who've actually given to our fan club. I want to give a shout to some of these names. Let me start with Jonathan Boyd, Jorge Delgado, Jose Alfonso, Joseph Jackson, Joseph Mayfield, Joseph Mills, Joyce Moore, Joyce Rivers Miller, Joycelyn Spite, Julius Payne. We also have Jamoki Arjikai, K. Zahira Sultan, Kanisha Atkins, Karen Burrell, Karen Cox, Karen Gilliam, Karen Winston, Karima Cafe Emporium, Casey Statham, Kathy A. Anderson, Kathy Basie, Katina Davis, Keedrick Person, Kelly Gillespie, Kelly Green, Kelly Sparrow, Kendra Prevost, Kenneth Sharif, Kenyetta Cheesebarrow. I want to thank all of them, of course, for being members of Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to support this show, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, and you can be one of our contributors. You can pay via PayPal or via Square, and you can do an annual payment to our fan club, or, of course, a one-time payment. So I want to thank everybody for supporting the show. Remember, Bills is here. Conversation we having, for us, by us, black folks talking about these issues. You ain't gonna see this on any other networks, because they might have one or two of us on the network, but they ain't gonna put four of us on at one time unless it's a really big black story. It's amazing how they can find black people in plentiful. All 4 or 6 boxes, all black. You ever see that happen? You know it's a really big black story. All right, folks. Of course, we're gonna restream the show here at 10 p.m., 2 a.m., 6 a.m., and 10 a.m. as well. We're on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. Be sure to share these videos, pass them around, tell your friends to follow us as well, because we want to be able to show advertisers that our news matters and our people support us. So that's why this is important. This is the blackest show you will find on television, on digital as well, and that's all by design. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Holla!